Transmission start. Welcome to Where Did the Road Go? Join us as we wander off the path and explore lost history, consciousness, the paranormal, unexplained mysteries, alternative thought, and much more. We are present on the web at wheredidtheroadgo.com. Now here is your host, Seriah.
Yes, and this is a special live edition of Where Did the Road Go? Before we get started, I want to send a special thanks out to Super Inframan for a great donation to the show. And live here in studio with me, I have Roejen.
Hello.
And Daniel Harms.
Hello.
So, Daniel, you 2 years maybe? Does that sound right?
I don't even keep track at this point.
All right. I think it's been about 2 years. I know it was around August.
Mm-hmm.
And Roejen, you haven't been here since ever.
Yes, this is my first time live in studio in a real radio station.
Yes, it is indeed a real radio station. And you drove here from where?
I came in from Detroit, cut through the Great White North of Canada, where I was detained by customs and held in traffic. That was a fun experience.
Well, better that than detained by customs.
I was detained by customs.
Held by customs.
They were like, so
you know.
You're from where? I'm from Detroit. And you drove from Detroit? Yes. Could you please pull over there, sir? And then they proceeded to dig through all my stuff. So I was like, all right, whatever, just sitting here playing on my phone, it was a thing, but, whatever,
Mm-hmm. And today you got to see Ithaca.
I did get to see Ithaca, which is a very cool town. There's a lot of really cool, neat things to see, waterfalls and stuff like that.
This was most of the time I took him to see things. You're making me walk up this. This sucks.
Okay.
This is, you're trying to kill me. Oh, okay. That's really cool.
Okay.
I'm glad I walked up here.
I actually, I'm feeling okay now. So the exercise did me some good, but I pulled a muscle in my chest moving a dresser for my wife about 2 days ago. So I woke up today and then every time I took a step or moved, it was like, so I actually almost went back to the hotel earlier because I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this and go on the air tonight and not be able to breathe, but it's doing all right now. I'm doing okay.
Good.
Then again, when you take 9,000 milligrams of ibuprofen, that probably is what's going to happen. And then counter it by drinking a Red Bull. So who knows?
Let's talk about that monument real quick.
The odd, what was it called?
Oddfellows.
The Oddfellows. Yeah, there were this. Are you familiar with the Oddfellows, Daniel?
Vaguely, yes.
Okay, when esoteric orders were becoming a thing, when you had the Freemasons, everybody else kind of popped up with their we can do one too, and then the Flintstones had the esoteric order of water buffaloes. I don't know. Right. And then you had the Oddfellows, which were they were kind of, I might be wrong about this, but they were kind of they were just, a bunch of guys that got together. They were kind of jokingly, but they did stuff for the community and stuff like that. And then you took me to this really cool local cemetery,
where lots of weird stuff has happened to me.
Yep. And you're like, yeah, here's the map. And, it says we're here. This is where we are.
Those maps are new.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I was like, what is this? There's a map?
Yeah, we ran into a lot of that today. You're like, this was never here before.
Yeah.
But they had this really cool, obelisk in the middle of the graveyard dedicated to the Oddfellows. And it had this really neat, one-eyed symbol on the top of it and stuff. And, I wasn't expecting to see something like that. And
I'd never even heard of it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I should probably look them up now that seeing I have a computer in front of me here. I probably will at some point during the show.
Do you have anything to add to the Oddfellows?
Only that you may know that one of the books I've edited is The Long Lost Friend, which is a manual of Pennsylvania German folk magic. Mm-hmm. And some editions from past publishers, they've just decided to put the little Oddfellows eye on the front page. No particular reason. Nothing to do with the Oddfellows. They just thought it looked nice. Yeah.
That looks cool. Let's throw that on there.
Yes, exactly. It's got an eye. It's mysterious and elusive, and it'll make people freak out. Let's put an eye on there.
Yeah.
Everybody has an eye. Yeah, it's a thing. Let's put an eye on it. It'll be fine.
It'll sell more.
We'll freak people out. People will want to join the order, but we'll tell them no because that'll keep us esoteric and mysterious.
Also, since this is live, if people go to wheredidtheroadgo.com, there's a pop-up when you go to the page that says if you want to talk to us, you can write a message. If you have any questions or comments, you can go to wheredidtheroadgo.com and just kind of do that, and it'll come straight to me, and I'll relay the comments to everyone. So there. Are you a little warm? Is it warm in here?
Very warm in here.
Yeah.
It's very warm. I could put tinfoil on my head and make Jiffy Pop popcorn under these lights.
It's not the lights. It's just the room. Everything's been shut up.
It's not the lights. There's 9,000 watt light bulb cooking down on us. I'm going to walk out here with a sunburn on my forehead.
They're not actually that hot. It's just that the place has been closed up, and there's a lot of transmission equipment right behind those doors.
And I'm fat, so I'm probably sweating to death.
And I've made you walk up and down hills all day long.
All day long. Some of them not the safest of hills. Oh, this is water covered. You're going to be fine. I'm wearing Converse All-Stars. Yeah, you'll be fine. Don't slip and kill yourself. Loose rocks.
He walked out to the edge of Ithaca Falls right before it got real slippery, and all I'm thinking is, if he falls, his wife's gonna blame me.
Just to give everybody a frame of reference, before you go up to the falls, they've got this sign where it says people have been killed swimming here, and then it's got a graphic of a guy like underneath the waterfalls in turbulence,
Also new.
with a tree and a shopping cart on the picture, like showing that if you go under these waterfalls, there's a cave down there with a tree and there's a shopping cart on it, and you might die if you go down there and look for it, which you probably should do, but if you do, you're gonna die.
Yes.
And I looked down and there's this really cute chick just sitting in the water at the edge of the waterfalls, and I'm like, you're gonna die by a shopping cart. So but it was cool. It was and then what's her name? It was she's like, yeah, don't touch anything because there's lead dust everywhere and it'll kill you. And you should probably wash your clothes and your skin after leaving here. I'm like, there's houses right here.
I don't think it's actually that bad. What happened is
we're going to go to a graveyard where there's dead people.
There was an old gun factory there, and the lead apparently seeped into the water and into the base of the rocks and all that type of stuff. So there's some lead, but it's not gonna kill you if you're there 30 seconds. Yeah, but
it's the shopping carts under the water that'll kill you.
Right, exactly. You got to see where I saw some of my shadow men.
Yeah, you said you saw two shadow people there?
Two shadow people
and you
there.
saw orbs there as well.
I didn't actually see I didn't actually see the second one. I was looking in a different direction. The person with me saw the shadow person in that case. I should have been clearer about that.
So what was the deal? You were just walking along?
Walking along. She also had very active Kundalini. And as we're walking along, I looked over toward the cannons that you saw the Civil War monument, because that's where I've seen things. And she just suddenly froze, and I turned, and she was just white as a ghost. And she was about to bolt, and I grabbed her because you don't want to run in the dark through an old cemetery.
Yes, running in a fear response is definitely a bad thing from something that you think might perceptively kill you.
But
no, stand here and die.
You were there. Would you want to run through that place in the dark when you can't see?
With it. No, because it was all over, up and down.
Yeah.
Tombstones were knocked over and stuff. Have you been to that cemetery over here?
I have not. I just can imagine
it's
running
really
through
cool.
a cemetery at night.
It's a really cool cemetery.
I wouldn't want to do that.
But it's like up and down all over, and there's like ravines out of nowhere. You're just like, wow, there's a bridge, and there's a 20-foot drop,
and there's
down
half-buried
to
tombstones and things like that. So I grabbed her, and she was like, okay, someone just walked out into the pathway we're on and then just disappeared.
Huh.
And I was like, oh, shadow person, okay.
Yeah, I'd love to walk through there at night just to check it out.
But if in times that I've spent a bit of time there, occasionally you'll start seeing lights, little faint lights drifting through the cemetery area. And the other thing, the really weird one was there was me, my girlfriend at the time, and this other guy walking along, and lights were swarming around us like bugs. Like they were that
bugs?
close. No, they were not bugs. And they were zipping around us, and my girlfriend looks at me and goes, also, incidentally, had massive Kundalini. She looks at me and goes, are you seeing this? And I'm like, yeah, I'm seeing this. And our friend goes, seeing what? And we're like, you don't see the lights? He's like, no.
Yeah, we've talked about that. Both of our shows about how some people just see phenomena and some don't.
Yeah.
Like people, there's something right in front of me. No, there's nothing there.
It's frequency.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Have you ever had any experiences like that, Daniel? No?
I think I'm one of the people who is there and doesn't experience things. I have heard, at one of my friends' houses, people walking around upstairs and then down the stairs when clearly there was nobody else in the house.
So you've only had audio phenomena, then you
just
haven't
audio
actually
phenomena.
Seen anything. You've never had any UFO experiences?
I have
or
not.
Nothing
No,
like that?
no.
Sleep paralysis.
I think I had some interesting
Gas,
conversations
anything
with
like
my
that?
brother
No.
about this, because he says when we were growing up, he experienced some unusual things in the house where we were staying, and I don't remember any of it. So.
Interesting. Now, obviously, you've edited magic books. Have you ever practiced any form of magic?
Hold on. I asked you this question on my
Yes.
show several times, and you've dodged it many times. So now both of us are here.
And
Let's
I
see
can
you
dodge
dodge
it
it
again.
now.
Yes, I'm dodging it again.
Well, that's no fun.
You you haven't tried any of it. You're not saying if you have or haven't. That's where you're.
I'm
going.
saying nothing.
I got to ask you. You've done a lot of research on Magick, and I read your blog a lot. I retweet it a lot.
And your blog is what?
Papers Falling from an Attic Window. That's danharms.wordpress.com.
Okay, go ahead.
Where do you go to find your information about your magical texts? Because there's so many out there. Like, you find obscure, really rare books of magic, and you delve into this really off-the-wall stuff that, everybody knows about Crowley, and your dime store, magic bookstore stuff. You don't cover any of that stuff. You go far deeper than it. Where do you go to find this stuff?
Well, I just actually came back from one of those trips because I went to the UK, and I spent about a week at the British Library and the Bodleian Library at Oxford, and also the Wellcome Library, which is just down the street from the British Library.
How do you go? Hi, I would like to look at your books of magic. Can you please let me in? No.
Well, the nice thing about
you have
all
like
this,
a special card with an eyeball on it or something, or.
Well, it helps. It does help to have academic credentials, but really, a lot of these collections are becoming much more focused on, not on so much on keeping things for, and making sure that they're safe, but making sure that people are using them, because they know that the world is changing and the emphasis people have is changing. People think that everything's online, even when it's not. So, like the British Library, I think it's, you need a current utility bill and, your driver's license, and then you just, maybe pay a few pounds and get a card.
These books are so old, I would think they would be afraid to let you touch them just because falling apart, I would think that the stuff would be scanned and put into a database so you can reference it that way. Because if I was holding like a 400-year-old, 500-year-old magical tome, it's like this book can disintegrate. I'd be afraid to touch it just to get my I'd be like the guy wearing the biological suit with the mask.
Yeah.
That would be me with the oxygen tank, because I'd be afraid to touch. They just let you go in and read these books, or
well, most of this material, despite the age, is actually in pretty good shape. And, it costs a lot of money. It takes a lot of effort to digitize. So they would indeed let me see the originals and, take photographs and things like that in certain circumstances. There is some material that is too delicate to handle. And I actually was able to track down one of those books. It was really bizarre. It has like this picture of this. One page has got some sort of frog guy, spitting fire, and he's got lightning in one of his hands. He's trying to climb up a ladder. Sure, yeah. It's bizarre. And that one I was not able to see because you just look at the microfilm and you can see there's like gaps in it. It looks like somebody's trying to piece together broken pages and all that sort of thing.
So here's an odd question. At least I think it is. When you're looking through these books, these weren't written with typewriters. They were written by freehand.
Yes.
How do you read some of this stuff? I can't even read my own handwriting half the time, and nor can anybody else.
Well, there were certain people were much more, I'd say, there was a lot more training that went into people's handwriting than there is today.
Stuff. Yeah,
yes.
It's like reading one of the old Lord of the Ring books. It's written differently. What does this word mean?
Some are easier to read than others. Some are in a hand that's very sort of, I don't want to say a modern hand, but it's one that people today would be easily able to read if at least if they can read cursive, which I'm not even sure these days if people can. Some of them are more challenging. The first time I looked at the manuscript that became the Book of Oberon, I had no idea what I was looking at. But then you start putting it together. Okay, so that's what the H looks like, and that's what the S looks like, and this is how you separate the S from the F.
And you need a Rosetta Stone, basically.
Well, if you start figuring out a few letters, then more come as you do it. And if you start working with that manuscript more and more, you start to really be able to put it all together. So that's what I was able to do.
When you're looking at these old style books of magic, do you see differences? Like nowadays, you can look at something and go, that's Enochian, that's blah, 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 that's blah, blah, blah. Whereas with these old style of magics, it was kind of like a lot of these things are when these things were created. Do you see differences in styles in those time periods, or was it literally just one person figuring it out as they went along?
I'm not sure how to answer that question. A lot because a lot of what I'm looking at, a lot of it isn't even necessarily. It's not part of a particular school. It's people who had, who were basically passing these manuscripts back and forth during that time, and copying down a little bit here and copying down, one operation here, or maybe they just really like this magic circle, so they put that in. They kind of cobbled something together for themselves. And maybe it's sometimes, especially the later stuff after probably the 17th century when Enochian starts really becoming prominent, people might bring some of that in, but it wasn't necessarily the same sort of systematic work that John Dee did, and that most people are familiar with when they think about magic from that period.
How big did Enochian magic get?
That's hard to say. It took some time for it to go anywhere because basically John Dee just took it and he documented all of this, but then it never really was shared, and then. Finally, a guy named Casaubon came along and said, "Hey, I'm going to publish this because it's going to show everybody that you can talk to spirits and therefore God exists. Except this guy talks to the wrong spirits, and that there's a serious problem with that." And everyone, of course, as everyone does when they publish a book of magic to discredit magic, everyone says, "Hey, book of magic, that's great. Let's get some more of that." And that's when it started seeping out and started to make their way into other people's manuscripts. And be copied from there.
And actually, next week I have on, I can't remember the guy's name, but he just published John Dee and the Empire of the Angels. And
cool.
He will be on next week to talk specifically about that. Now, what was your question for him that I interrupted?
It's okay. You always hear about alchemy and things like that, where alchemists didn't want to share their secrets, so when they wrote their alchemical things down, they wrote them in code and different symbols for different things that only they understood. When you're going through these old magic books, you say that these people would trade this stuff off, or was it like that? Was it like a community, an underground secret community where here's my notes, let me see your notes? Or was it something like this person would die, then somebody else would come along and find their books 50 years later and add to them? Or was there a big network of people back then?
There was a big network of people for a lot of different things. I'm actually looking into this more in terms of the just how manuscripts were used at that time, and they were used quite a bit because you had a lot of censorship of the press. You could not basically publish a book without getting the local authorities or the church to stamp to prove that. So what people would do is they were just handing all sorts of manuscripts back and forth. A lot of them were even parliamentary proceedings or treatises saying that this earl was a horrible guy, and they would have these whole networks. And this was just another sort of item in that set of items in that whole trading network.
So like nowadays you've got social media, you've got all of these different ways to share stuff. Back then there wasn't anything like this. So how did these people find one another? How did they communicate? Like, was it, hey, John Dee is my pen pal. I would like to summon a woman for purposes and things. What do I do? Well, is that how it worked, or?
I don't know if anyone would put it quite that way, but basically, yes. I mean, people sent letters, and there was an understanding, I think, among a lot of people that there was, these manuscripts were being passed back and forth, and sometimes, and they would go through the post or something like that, and people knew that they were surreptitious and they weren't supposed to, be getting them wide circulation, but they would sort of have these networks. And maybe if you were handing back and forth some political records, maybe you could hand back and forth some magical records too, or something like that.
Isn't that how the original Illuminati was born?
Don't ask me. I am by no means an Illuminati expert, nor am I a member.
Neither am I.
And if you're looking for members and you pay well...
Roejen, on the other hand, is a member and also president of the Flat Earth Society.
Yes, Australia is not real. Everybody you see talking in Australian they're all method actors, and Foster's is not a real beer. So when you go to Outback Steakhouse, you are eating a lie. I can't believe that. The Flat Earth Society, it's like, okay, these guys have got to be troll. This can't be real. And then it's like, no, they're real now. And then it's like, well, Australia's not real, and I'm going to launch a rocket into space to prove that it's not real with steam. And I'm going to go 300 feet and I'm going to crash. And you just sit and look at these people like, no, really? Okay, this is done. Stop the joke. The joke's over with now. No.
It's perfectly fine as a thought experiment because we know very little about our world that doesn't go through a gatekeeper somewhere. However, as a thought experiment, not as a belief system.
Yeah, well, you're failing there already.
I mean, you can go in a plane and understand that it's
Now
a
they're
globe.
having meetings, though, and they're
Yeah, I
having meetings
know.
all over the world. Or was it all around the world?
All around the world. Yeah. Think about that one.
It's not how this works. I really would like to see a reality show. Somebody posted this on Facebook somewhere.
yes.
The idea of having a reality show where it's like, all right, we're going to take these 10 flat earthers and they're going to discover if the earth is flat or not. And then you document these people going around the world.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and how they would explain stuff away. You know, it's how do you do that? Because
That would be interesting.
well, we did
Wouldn't
have
it? That's a
yeah.
great idea.
we had a flat earther on our page at one time, and I couldn't stand the guy anymore. I eventually booted him. But I'm like, so when you go up in an airplane and you see the curve of the earth, and it's like they've got answers for everything, which I admire the tenacity. I
Sure,
admire the
sure.
ability to come up with just complete garbage on the spot and go,
Well, skeptics
"Yes,
do it all the
that
time. Come on.
It's like, well, no, what that is that's the window on the airplane that affects the lens of what you're looking at and adds the curve
Oh,
to
wow.
it. And I'm like, no, really? How much drugs are you on? Seriously, for real? No, man.
Again,
no.
belief system. And the same thing with skeptics. Skeptics get set in the this is what's real, this is what's not real. You give them evidence of something they think is not real, they'll go around the block and back to come up with an explanation to explain it away.
But it's the lack of the belief system that is the belief system. You have two kinds of skeptics. You have, like, I consider myself a skeptic. I really do. And I've had weird stuff.
Well, you have real skeptics who are people who question things.
Yeah, you know.
And then you have debunkers who are not real skeptics.
Yeah, and then you have cynics, you know, and there's just, like, in my opinion, true skeptics are that, yes, you question everything, but at some point or another, you know, you just get to a point, okay, well, I can't explain this, and that's
Yeah,
what it
there's
is.
plenty of stuff
And
I
then you
can't
have the people
explain.
that are like, no, this isn't real, I just haven't figured out a way to explain how it's not real, or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, well, at that point, you're not going to get anywhere with them, so you just got to kind of do what you're going to do and say, all right, whatever.
Yeah,
that
don't
popping sound?
worry about the pop.
Okay.
It's just the elementals in the studio.
Loud popping noise. Sure, it's totally fine.
Actually, we just did a show. I just did a show with Joshua and Cheryl Lee about this. How do you know if you met someone at a like barbecue or something who was sort of a skeptic but not diehard?
Yeah,
like
I've been there.
what do you present to them as the best evidence that there's something weird in the world?
You can't.
Yeah,
In my opinion, you can't.
We went back and forth on it. That'll be up probably later this week. And I liked having Cheryl Lee there because Cheryl Lee's actually a scientist. You know, so she has the scientific background as well. Mm-hmm. And Miguel was supposed to join us as well, but he forgot. Yeah, he apparently he didn't think it was confirmed, so he went and had to do other stuff. But where do you fall on all this?
Where do I fall? I'd say I'm a skeptic in the more skeptical sense, not in the debunking sense.
Like asking questions?
I went through a debunking period, and if you read something I've written, like the Necronomicon files, that was more from my debunking side, and now but it's just, you just keep having people keep telling you things that have happened to them, and after a certain point you just have to say, okay, well, I generally don't know what's going on with the world.
And it's fine to say that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's okay to say, you know what, I don't know what the answer is to this. Mm-hmm. It's when you have people on one side of the fence that are like, it's definitely this, this, or this. And you have people on the other side that are like, no, none of this is real, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's okay to say something's going on, but I don't know what that is.
Everything is demons.
Everything is demons. Everything is demons. We're back to that again.
It's a mantra here. Yeah, and I don't know, the when you say like people have all these experiences, and I don't tend, unless there's red flags, I don't tend to doubt when people tell me they have an experience. I don't always necessarily believe their interpretation of it.
True. Yeah.
You know, they'll be like, well, this thing happened and this thing happened, and I think it was my aunt. Okay. Well, it may have been. I don't know. But I'm not going to make that last jump. I'll believe what you told me happened. Yeah, the stuff moved, the rocking chair shook, there was a bang on the wall. Okay, well, I'm sure it could have been your aunt, but maybe it was some kind of PK from you. You know, you were upset your aunt died, and it came out as spontaneous PK and moved stuff. And you know, but I don't know that's really what it was. It's just, I'm not willing to settle on one thing. One
I hear
explanation.
like I was talking about before. I hear something that sounds like it's coming down the stairs. The stairs are creaking. My friend's dog is growling. I'm not sure what's going on with that.
Were you practicing magic right before this happened?
Actually, probably watching horrible movies,
Oh.
I think. But after a certain point, it's just like you didn't even bother to get up. I mean, it's just like,
Well,
okay,
yeah,
there
yeah.
that is again. Okay.
My friend, I did a video with my friend Dave, and I think it was quite a few years ago now. And one of his two experiences was the bathroom would just randomly, the toilet would flush around 2 a.m. and no one could explain why, but they just got used to it. You know, it's just
Yeah,
kinda
yeah.
like-
Leave the seat up or down.
I think there were also
If it were my wife, it'd be put the seat down.
I think it was also footsteps on the stairs too. And then the toilet would flush, and they'd be like, at first they were freaked out, and then they were just kind of like, all right, well, that's just what happens. You know?
Yeah.
As hauntings go, that's a pretty, there could be
Tame.
worse.
Yeah.
There could be worse things that happen to you. What was that? It's our ghost that just flushes the toilet every once in a while.
Yeah.
Now, what if you're in the bathroom using the bathroom at the time?
I don't
That's when
know.
it gets awkward.
And I don't know that it did it every night either. But that video is up. That's early on Where Did the Road Go. I think he was the first personal story I put up. And it was funny because I didn't think he would be someone who had those kind of stories. And he's like, there's been two things that happened to me. The other was his brother when he was a kid. I think he was like just around teenager, 12, 13 years old. His brother was in a coma. And suddenly his brother was floating in his room. And he's like, what the hell is this? And his brother's like trying to talk to this ghost of his brother is trying to talk to him, and he freaks out and he runs into the other room, and his mom's on the phone and no one will listen to him, and they're telling him he's imagining things and shooing him away, and he goes back into his room and everything's normal. And he found out that at that moment his brother had died, and that's what she was on the phone about. He did recover. They brought him back, and when he went to see him in the hospital, his brother went, I came to see you. Did you see me? And that just blew his mind because, he was willing to accept that this was in his head until his brother said, I was in your room.
That would have
Yeah.
to suck, though, if you're the guy going back to see your brother, and then your brother's seeing you flipping out and running away, and you're like, no, this is not the reaction I want you to have.
Fair enough, yeah.
I mean, imagine if you're that guy, That's what I always say, like, when you go into a house and you're going on a ghost hunt, like when you watch these silly ghost hunting shows and stuff, and you go in and somebody walks in and they've got their little machine. If there's somebody here, could you make something happen? And you're the dead guy, you're the ghost, you're stuck in this building for eternity, or
right.
whatever the manual in Beetlejuice says. And someone says, if you're here, let us know. So you're like, and they go running out of the room, and you're like,
You
I
asked.
don't understand. This is what you, and then you get so frustrated by it, It's like, so when you go in and you do something like this and something does happen, it's like, oh, okay, well, pull up a chair. Let's sit down and see if we can make something out. Yes, there is, I'm saying this now, but I'm sure the creepiness factor probably would be there. It probably would kick in out of human nature. But that's what I was saying when you're talking about the graveyard. I'm like, yeah, I want to come back here at night. I want to see this graveyard. I want to see this, because if this stuff is going on, my first response would be like, okay, cool. Let's interact with this. If you're here and you can see me, I'm here for you. Is there some kind of a tender we can use here?
So if you got sort of an oppressive feel and a shadow person walked out,
I probably would. I can't lie. I probably would freak out at first.
would I have to stop you from running?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so, because you're going there and you're asking and you're inviting this and you're knowing what you're going to get, but it would be the initial shock of, whoa, something is happening here. So I would have to go through. It's like when I saw the thing that I saw. I was like, okay, my
UFO,
logical brain's trying to make sense of what's going on, and then eventually you reach a point of disconnect. Well, it's like the first time you have sex. Once that's over with, you know what to expect. So if I were to go see, a shadow person or something like that. Now, I know Lobo would probably be like trying to walk, come at me, bro. I know my co-host would probably be doing something like that. But, whereas I would be like, all right, cool. I see you. I'm supposed to see you. You're doing this okay. Now what is the next step? Yeah. What is the next step? What is, or unless it's one of those things where it's just something that it just happens and it doesn't interact with you or some way that would actually kind of bum me out. It's like, all right, I see something, it vanishes. It's like, can we, I guess that's just how it goes. That would suck. But it still would be cool to see something like that. Now, trying to tell somebody you saw something like that, trying to convey that, then you're dealing with the skeptic and stuff. Again, that's like, okay, well, there's no conversation here. There's no point in this.
And I've had a number of conversations recently where someone had told me they had seen a shadow person, and their initial interpretation is it's a demon. Like genuinely, not they're not these everything is demons type of people, but it's just what else would it be? You know, like it seems like it's scary, but you know, you figure if you're getting affected by an energy you don't understand, something coming up from the earth, affecting your brain, your senses, and your mind may just be going, what is that? That's a person. Sure, it's a person walking along, and then, you know, the energy kind of dissipates and the person disappears, and you're like, oh my God, demon! You know?
Well, let me do this. Now that you've heard us interact about this stuff, and you say you're on more of the skeptical side, hearing people talk about this stuff, when you hear somebody talk about this stuff, what comes to mind to you? Do you believe that they're actually seeing something, they're hallucinating, or is it just some kind of something manifesting itself in a way that this is how I want to present myself to you?
It's
again another weird question.
I have to accept that people have an experience, and that's where I go, because I'm not a cognitive scientist. I'm not somebody who was there at the time.
Yeah.
And can, see what they were seeing there. There's always, and people like to put things into a narrative anyway, in terms of, when they experience something, we want to put it into, some little boxes.
Context,
so we can explain it to other people.
Yeah.
So, I just say, okay, well, this person has experienced something, and,
have you ever wanted to? Do you want to see this kind of stuff? And if you could, how do you think you'd
Am I going to get dragged out to a graveyard? Is this where this is going?
No, but we can't do that.
Not tonight.
Well, you've got a show to do afterwards.
Right. Yeah.
We can walk down the road.
True.
Which I may do. I mean, I'm not, yeah, but I mean, it's, if you were to have an experience like this, what do you think it would change your perspective, or or you would be like, yeah, this is cool, whatever.
Like
I would
something
probably say
bigger
this is an experience.
Yeah.
Other people have had an experience. Now I've had an experience. Am I going to be able to, articulate that to other people, or explain say I have this great revelation about, how reality works now? Probably not.
And that's kind of how I am. I have experiences. Yep, that happened. Okay. I don't know what it was, but it was interesting. Like, it was interesting to me that I've had two experiences where one person there didn't see the very obvious things happening. And that that kind of taught me that, okay, reality's not that simple as black and white. Because, I've had a tree shake, and one of the people with me is going, what the hell's that? The whole tree is moving. You're hearing this thump thump. We thought it was a deer, a buck, running its horns against the other side of the tree. And he's freaking out. And then we realize our other friend's not seeing the tree move. And it's like, you're what?
It has to suck when you're there and everybody else is seeing it and the one guy is not.
Yeah, and the funny thing,
why you got to be like that, man?
And I know I've mentioned this before, but until I started working on my book of all my experiences, the person I thought didn't see it is the person who never had experiences, and the other person the person who actually didn't see it was the person who had all kinds of experiences when he was around me. So I remembered it the other way, and I'm going, okay, so Dave was the one that saw it because Dave was around when all kinds of weird stuff happened, and my other friend was the one who didn't see it. And then I looked at my notes and I went, what? Dave was the one that didn't see it?
Dave.
That doesn't make any damn sense,
Thanks, Dave. Dave ruins everything.
He thought we were pranking him.
Nobody wants to bring Dave to the paranormal experience.
And I asked him about one of the experiences. I said, "Do you remember when this happened?" Because it was before I started taking notes. And he goes, "Yeah." He's like, "But that was by no means the weirdest thing that happened when I was with you." And I'm like, "Yes, I know. Okay." But like that experience, I walked away from going, "Okay, how did we see two different realities there?" I mean, that tree was visibly moving. There was thumping on the ground. I mean, you could feel when you get a horse or something jumping up and down, you feel that vibration. He didn't see any of it. Didn't feel any of it.
Well, that was kind of like the conversation we were having it was probably at the graveyard at your house. I don't remember which one, but it's like some people just can't see this stuff. Some people I just don't think are equipped to. They just can't.
But the thing is, he was.
That's what he said, the colorblind.
He witnessed other stuff with me. That's what made it so weird.
I don't know. But me and you use the same term. Me and you both refer to it as being colorblind. Yeah, we use that's what I've always referred to as. Some people are just colorblind and can't.
And there's no graveyard at my house.
No, there's no graveyard at your house that I know of.
But
your house is creepy.
Thank you.
Your house is very creepy.
Especially out back, behind the barn.
Yes.
I took Roejen out behind the barn.
Nothing sounded odd about that at all. There's no reason I'm in pain today.
And he's out there going, show me something. And I'm thinking, if it shows you something, you're going to scream.
No, again, I probably would have been wigged out, but again, I invited it. I'm here. Show me what you got. Show me what you've got. You know.
The only thing that ever freaked me out is when the scary barn there knocked at the end of a ritual. Because I did 3 taps with a staff, and then there were 3 solid knocks
That's
from
right.
that
You
barn.
are a practitioner of magic,
Yeah,
aren't you?
and I
So
got
you have
those.
a guy that collects books of magic and the guy that reads them.
And so, like, I tapped the staff 3 times,
For you. You know that, right?
and knock, knock, knock from the barn, which is a creepy barn to begin with. And I just went, why that barn? Why couldn't you have knocked on something else?
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
the Whitley Strieber effect.
sort of, yeah. That was one of the things I noticed with the knocking and stuff that I experienced. I think it was in Transformation. He talks a lot about it, and I started going, wait a minute. I've had some of these type of experiences, but there's no aliens involved. And that's when I started, very early on, started piecing together. It's like, okay, so the stuff I'm experiencing from magical rituals is very similar to what Whitley Strieber is experiencing as UFO encounters.
Well, you always go back to Crowley summoning Lamb.
Lamb?
Was it Lamb? Yeah,
Yeah.
Lamb. Which, wow, look at that. It's a gray alien. How about that? You know?
not quite a gray alien, but similar.
Yeah.
And someone, I'm trying to remember who I had on said that he felt that, or he had said it was a self-portrait by Crowley, but no one else has said that, so I don't know if that's really
It
the case.
sounds familiar from somewhere, but don't quote me on that. Well, it's too
Yeah.
late now.
Before I lose my train of thought, did you see that they're making a show about Parsons?
Yes, I did.
That should be
Yeah,
interesting.
it's going to be all about his more about his magical life than his rocketry life that actually ended up killing him.
Yeah.
Because he was experimenting with rocket fuel. Is that how he
Yes.
died? And he was big into sex magic, I believe it was. Who was it? It was Crowley, and who else was in? Not Crowley. It was Parsons, and who else was in?
Crowley.
I know.
L. Ron Hubbard?
Yes.
That's rumored. Now, if you talk to the
I think
Scientologists,
that's
they're like,
actually-
no, that
No,
never
L. Ron Hubbard was
That's-
involved.
Yeah, that was pretty. We're pretty certain about that.
It was Hubbard, Parsons, and who else? There was somebody else that was really in it. LeVay wasn't part of that, was he?
No.
No. I forget who the third person was that was supposed to be all involved in that.
Well, there was the Scarlet Woman, whose name I forget, which Parsons felt he summoned, and then whatchamacallit took from what's his name?
Hubbard.
Hubbard, yeah.
Yeah.
And he took her and most of everything from Parsons.
See, I don't know how they're going to make. Is that because you're dealing with sex magic? How are you going to put that on a regular network? Yeah, I don't.
Well, it's on CBS All Access, I think.
Okay, that's
so-
different.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's different then. That's a pay service.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can see it working there because they get away with a little bit of cussing and swearing. And
Yeah,
stuff
they can
on
do
it.
whatever they want. It's a
Or
pay
it's-
service.
yeah,
There's no
exactly.
FCC rules.
Exactly, which means I'll be. I didn't say BitTorrenting, did I? No, I didn't say. I did not say that I would be watching that illegally through illegal means.
But it's good if they keep putting programs like that in there because, they have Star Trek Discovery, which I liked a lot. If they have this and it turns out to be good, that's two in their camp,
they got to do something because here's Star Trek Discovery. Now pay us money.
Yeah.
Except for everybody else in the world can have it on Netflix, but not in America. You got to pay for it. And I'm
Is
like,
that how it works? I heard it was on Netflix, and I was really confused by
only
that.
in Europe.
That's
and
like-
I'm kind of torn on that show. Okay,
I liked it. I liked it a lot, actually.
I liked it and I didn't like it. There were things that I liked about it and things that I didn't. It was good sci-fi. I'll say that. I'll say it's very good sci-fi, but it didn't seem like Star Trek to me. Are you a Star Trek guy at all, Dan?
To some extent, not enough to try to seek out Star Trek Discovery.
Okay, it'll be on regular Netflix
I'm
next
more of
year, I
a
think.
DS9 sort of guy.
Yeah, old school. I like all sci-fi equally. I'm not Star Wars is better than Trek, and blah 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 is better than this, and Firefly is better than Galactica. I like all sci-fi equally. I'm the guy that's got the coexist bumper sticker that's got like the picture of the Falcon and blah blah. Except for what was that show that was the copy of DS9?
You mean my favorite show, Babylon 5?
Oh no,
Which was
no.
not a copy of
Yes, it
Babylon
was.
5 at all, or DS9 at
Yes, it
all.
was. Yes, it was.
It really was
really
not.
was. Yes,
This is going to get ugly.
Let's agree to disagree.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go get one of those olive containers and beat you upside the head with it. How's that? Huh?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take a beating for that. It's worth. I'll take a beating. I just could not watch Farscape. Did you watch Farscape?
I loved Farscape.
I love Farscape as well.
Clearly, you did not get into Babylon 5 enough because Babylon 5 was basically.
Clearly, I said this is a waste of my time.
It
and
was.
walked away.
It was basically World War II politics mixed with Lovecraft. So that is not
How
DS9.
dare you insult Lovecraft by saying that? Back me up here. Come on, you're a Lovecraft scholar.
I haven't seen enough Babylon 5.
Well, you suck anyways, so. I'm kidding.
So I got a message from one of our listeners who asked us if we heard about the Australian Flat Earth Society meet at Con
Yes, Josh,
that fell apart. And it says the article is the bizarre tale of the Flat Earth Convention that fell apart. A vicious falling out, alleged death threats, and an arson attempt. This is the story of how Australia's first Flat Earth conference destroyed itself from the inside out. The convention flyer described it as an ocean-level world record laser attempt, spelled wrong, a repetition of the Bedford-level experiment on a record-breaking scale. A laser beam sent miles across the sea to another point, a boat probably.
Did you just say a boot? Are you
A
Canadian?
boot. A boat.
A boot? What is this exactly all about?
Samuel Burley Robotham first conducted the experiment with surveying equipment in 1838. He used the results to declare that the Earth was flat. In 1870, in response to a wager, biologist Alfred Russel Wallace repeated the test, adjusting for the effects of atmospheric refraction. His results were consistent with the curvature of a spherical Earth. So the Bedford level experiment is controversial and commonly repeated, mostly by flat earthers. This test at the close of Australia's first Flat Earth Convention would be no difference, save for the scale, but it never happened because the Flat Earth Convention itself never happened. Of course, if Australia doesn't exist...
That's why the conference didn't happen, because there was no conference, because Australia is not a not a country.
Co-organizer Lee Maxwell Judd believes dark negative forces, let's just say it, demons, were behind its failure, but the convention was doomed from the start. That's the poster. The event looked good on paper, tragically ambitious on paper. It says a prominent Flat Earth YouTuber was billed as a special guest. Rapper B.O.B., who famously argued with Neil deGrasse Tyson over Flat Earth theory, was to provide live music.
Oh, my God. Wow, do I wish I could swear.
There's a quote here that says, after watching a friend disappear down the rabbit hole, I'd become obsessed with Flat Earth culture and the people involved in it. And he profiled his friend John in 2016, a medical doctor who in a short period of time had gone from devil's advocate to full-fledged believer, a man who'd put friendships and his marriage at risk in favor of his resolute belief that the Earth was flat. And then this is a long article. It goes into all the different ideas about, where it came from, etc., etc. I'm trying to find how it fell apart.
You're a professor, correct, Daniel?
I'm a librarian.
A librarian. Did you hear about this person? The American professor almost failed students saying Australia is not a country?
So hold on. I think the answer to your question is no, I have not heard about this.
Yeah, this is real. This is legit. But it's coming from news.com.australia, so this could be a plant fake story. And it's an American professor. So, American professor fails student saying Australia is not a country. A U.S. university professor has been fired after she penalized student Ashley Arnold's assignments because she didn't believe Australia was a real country. An online adjunct professor incorrectly told a student that Australia isn't a country and gave her a borderline failing grade, prompting Southern New Hampshire University to replace the instructor rather quickly. BuzzFeed News reported that the 27-year-old student in Idaho was assigned to compare American social norms to that of another country. What a great country Australia would be to do that with. Because they're all about beer and women. The student, which very attractive women in Australia, for people watching me in here.
We have at least one listener right now from Australia.
It's probably she's probably one of mine. I think I know who she is. The student Ashley Arnold chose to study social media use in Australia, but the professor gave her a 0 on that portion of the assignment, saying Australia is only a continent and not a country. Well, she at least acknowledged that something was there. I'll give her that much. Miss Arnold wrote back to her professor explaining that Australia is actually both a country and a continent, but the professor insisted that she had been she'd been replying, Australia is a continent, is not a country. That error made it nearly impossible for you to accurately complete your 2-week research outline correctly. She replied, I want you to understand that any error in the project can invalidate the entire research project, which would be the teacher in error. The professor told Arnold in her email, research is like dominoes. If you accidentally knock one piece, the entire set will also fall, just like the university that you teach at. I will gladly re-examine your week 2 milestone project report. But before I do, I want you to understand that an error in a project can invalidate the entire research project, which is basically what I just read. Research is like dominoes, which I just read. If you accidentally knock one over, blah, 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 blah. Australia is a continent, not a country. That error made it nearly impossible for you to... I'm not reading this again because I've already read it. This is Arnold even sent her professional link to Australia's government about the Australia page. So she contacted Australia and told them, your country is not a country, but it is a continent. That's like somebody in, like, I don't know, Russia contacting the president and saying, you're a continent and not the United States of America. But university officials told local news station WMUR-TV that the instructor has since been replaced following an investigation into the matter. I'm not going to read the rest of the article because it's only 3 sentences long and I don't think I need to.
All right. Our listener Jamie says she's one of those people who wanted a paranormal experience since childhood and nothing, nada, ever.
That goes both ways.
What do you mean?
Okay, let's say you have a paranormal experience, be it whatever it is. Then you have to, you got to be ready for the things that it could trigger, because it sometimes brings a lot of baggage with it. Let's say you are a Christian and then you have a very active or major UFO experience. Now it's like, okay, I'm very heavily Christian oriented and now I have UFOs flying over me, blah, 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 blah. How do I make this fit into my paradigm of existence?
Sure.
So it could go both ways, but I don't know. I mean,
there are definitely people who have experiences who don't want them.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I tell people buyer beware. You know,
I sometimes wonder if the paranormal experience is the beginning of sort of a level of evolution with us, that we're opening up to other things in the universe. But then again, there are paranormal experiences that go all the way back through time. So it's hard to,
exactly.
Like, how long is this evolution taking,
Yeah, exactly. What is the, like, when a lot of things okay, you saw a UFO, and I'm like, yeah, but I didn't get anything out of it. I wasn't given any knowledge. I wasn't given any information. Nothing came out of it other than 2 days of, like, and that's what I'm saying, like, because I've been into this stuff, and I've said this many times, I've been into this stuff for a long, long time. I've had other experiences before that were very strange.
Very strange ones, yeah.
So when that happened, it was like, okay, I've been into this stuff for years. I've listened to all kinds of podcasts. I know what to do here. Stick my thumb out, measure it, blah, blah. I'm going through all the scientific stuff that I'm supposed to do if I were to report to MUFON or whatever, cheesecake organization I would send a sighting into or what have you. And, and then after that, it was like, it's like something just happened to me that I genuinely cannot explain. And I should be ready for this. I should be used to this kind of stuff. And it still screwed with my brain for a couple of days. It still was like, and eventually you're like, okay, I got to pay the bills now. I got to get on with my life. But it was still genuinely weird, Yeah. So sometimes when you have these experiences, it's a two-way road. You need to be ready for any possible baggage that you may have with this. So,
and I'm just thinking about John Dee again, and this is a guy who set out to contact the spirit world, who many people believe contacted the spirit world. He's got this, there's more evidence for John Dee contacting the spirit world than a lot of people. Yeah, and I'm not going to say whether that is valid or not because I haven't gotten that far into it. Well, but at the same time, did this do him any good whatsoever?
Yeah, exactly.
He made a career out of it, didn't he?
Well, sort of. He just kind of got passed around between various nobles, tried to get somebody to patronize him, eventually might have gotten some sort of minor government position because he bothered the queen so much. That was...
Oh, gosh, it's John.
Now if I'm
give
not
him
mistaken,
something to do.
One of the interesting things about the Enochian language, it actually seems to have syntax and all the signs of being an actual language, not something just made up.
There People have said that. I haven't
Yeah,
looked
I don't
too
know
far
if it's
into it.
true or
I've
not.
also on the other side, I've also heard that it tends to follow patterns that are very close to English, so which you would not necessarily expect
From an angelic
from an
language.
angelic language. Yeah. So
Obviously, we'll talk more about this next week when I have on whoever. I can't remember his name.
poor guy.
I'm gonna look it up. You guys continue.
No, it's more fun
this
watching
is-
you stumble.
But getting back to what we were just talking about, I mean, this was somebody who really put a huge amount of effort into this, and he didn't really seem to get a whole lot out of it. He got these great messages about
Jason
the-
Louv.
excellent.
Isn't Louvre slang for a bathroom?
Louv. Different spelling.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
But he didn't.
I just
he
called your guest a
went through all
toilet.
this effort, got all these visions and promises about the future, and where did he end up? I mean, the only reason people really remember John Dee today is because he did these things. Not to say that John Dee didn't do a lot of really, wonderful things during the time with regard to navigation and map making and
Right.
and,
It's
and maybe espionage, but he just nothing seemed to didn't seem to go anywhere for him, and he was somebody who spent so much time and so much effort just trying to contact this other realm.
Isn't that kind of the bane for people that are involved in paranormal, though? That's always kind of what ends up happening to them. You got like John Keel and...
but Keel was fairly okay most of his life.
Yeah, but they always end up like having nothing or just, not much left when they get to the end of the rope or whatever, Nobody dies getting involved in this stuff rich.
No, it's not something that makes you rich, but I think Keel was all right.
But you do have...
Valet is okay. But
Valet is a scientist.
That's the thing.
So-
Valet has kind of spread himself out where he's doing a lot of different stuff.
So Valet's, you can't really hang all of, the whole paranormal thing on Valet because he's involved in other stuff too.
Stanton Friedman, he seems to be doing fine, and he's been doing that pretty much his whole life,
Yeah,
and
you got
that's
a
all
point.
he's done.
Yeah, you got a point. Yeah. Again,
Well, it's
scientist though.
I'm not talking so much though about relative financial status. It was just that
He didn't achieve anything.
What
new
was it?
from
What
the
came out of
communication.
this?
Yeah.
What came out of this communication? What did something come out of it that changed the world? In a lot of cases, the answer is
No.
And it doesn't not even something that has to change the world, but really something that
Changes you.
changes you in a meaningful way.
Well, we don't know. I mean, that was a
yeah.
long time ago. It's hard to say if it really changed him or not. Definitely made him some money, I think.
I don't even think it did that. He was
Really?
actually.
I thought he did.
Well, he was
I
wandering
think he
around.
died penniless, didn't he?
I think so. I think he may have gotten like a little bit of money from
Yeah.
the Queen, but that was it. But no, he was talking to the spirits, and they'd say, well, for this operation, you're going to need a golden ring. He's like, do we really need a golden ring? Because we're kind of strapped right now. And the answer was no. What? Stop doubting us. Go get that. And then
It's probably somebody from the other side just trolling them. They're like,
and there's
he
actually
needs an arm.
there's actually a point where Edward Kelly actually just comes out and asks the angels for money.
Nice.
He's like, yeah, can you get us some money? And they're like, no. Why are you even asking this question?
Well, I noticed in the Avon publication of the Necronomicon, it's all like, use this gold thing and this, and it's just like, right, because people just have gold laying around that they can,
Well, that part actually comes from some of the practice. That people were asked to use, gold, talismans or
Yeah.
gold rings and things like that. But yeah, there was a certain barrier there for a lot of people to be able to practice that. And even
Right.
today, there would be a barrier for people being able to practice that.
Take your gold plaque and lay it down. It's like, wait, what? Must be solid gold. Oh, okay. Let me go into my vault and...
Necromancy just seems so much easier. Just get a skull. Do this to it. Which there are people that still practice necromancy. I guess there's a services where you can buy bones or something like that, I believe, or something like that.
Really?
Yeah. I was reading a book recently about a woman who she was studying faking your own death. And apparently down like in the Philippines, there's actually places you can go buy unclaimed bodies for like $400.
Of course there is.
Yeah. You can so if you wanted to fake your own death, you could go into a morgue and pick one that looks like you and they could write up a fake death certificate and stuff, but it was only like $400 to buy a corpse, an unclaimed corpse.
Interesting.
And it's like, wow, I would hope that my dead value would be more than $400 after I die to somebody. But, You sold me by the pound, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, this is Where Did the Road Go? I'm here with Daniel Harms, author of how many books?
I don't even want
I
to
didn't
guess
think
at
you
this
knew.
point.
And Roejen from Project Archivist, who has made his way out here from somewhere out Detroit way.
South Detroit.
South Detroit,
We'll say
okay.
Taylor, Michigan.
All right. And we got about half an hour left.
Wow, it's gone by fast.
It does. It does that, especially on live shows. What is the book you brought with you, Daniel?
This is Collecting the World, Hans Sloane and the Origins of the British Museum.
Is this your latest?
No, this is something that I'm reading
Oh, okay. Okay.
for my own benefit.
Because
Actually, Hans Sloane was the collector who gave the British Museum and now the British Library the Sloane manuscripts, which is this huge, which are a lot of manuscripts, and it's a huge collection of magical manuscripts. Not to say that a lot of it's not magical, but there's a good number of magical stuff in it. If you start looking around and start paying attention to where particular manuscripts come from when you're picking up some of these new editions of grimoires, a lot of them will be from the Sloane collection.
Oh, nice.
And I was actually able to see some of those when I was in London. They're nicely bound in red leather, and they're in pretty good shape. And I'm happy he took the effort to preserve those.
So two-part question. One, do you think that magic works?
Oh, man. Look at the
You would
gears
have to-
turning in his head. Wow.
You
Define magic working.
well, you can define it however you want in your answer.
Well, some people say, some people are doing it for an operative goal. They're trying to,
Bring money,
wealth, partner, whatever into their lives, and they do the right, and then that happens. So does that mean that the magic did that?
Or it just
you've also got the level where, say, and this is something that was noted in some of the sociologists who were working with the early Church of Satan, that if you're doing a love spell, and that person you're doing it for knows that you're doing the love spell, now there's a psychological component.
Right.
So sort of the magic worked, but it may not work through what we would describe as magical means. There's a psychological means to it. And then there's the idea of which I think is becoming more popular, of people doing magic because it changes their view of the world. And it changes their position within it. It kind of gives them sort of a meaningful center, or changes
Control
their
of their reality.
Control of reality, change perceptions of a particular situation. And that's before you even get to the question of what if there is a supernatural force behind it that is making it work.
Right.
Yeah.
Because my second part was going to be, if you do think it works, what do you think is the mechanism? But you answered that already. So that's fine. The person who sent us that flat earth thing said, and that is Aaron, says scroll down to the meeting and then the lodge in the article. So the meeting says March 17th, 2018, an unusually hot afternoon, even by Sydney standards. I'm standing outside of Darling Park, a modern set of tower blocks with harbor views. Darling Park is modern. It's fancy, office space mainly. In the lead up to the Flat Earth Convention, I'd spoken with Lee Maxwell Judd a few times. He'd been very careful to temper my expectations. The flyer promised a convention, but that had been scaled back. Now it was more like drinks with like-minded flat earthers. It's now Saturday morning, and he's sheepish. He isn't expecting many people to arrive, and he's right. In the end, 2 people show up to the Flat Earth Convention. 3, including myself. Judd is wiry with thick forearms. Okay, this is just describing him.
Does this have a comment section?
I don't know.
You must read from the comment section. The best gold is in the comments.
The 3 of us make small talk. It quickly becomes apparent that the 3 of us sitting around a small coffee table in Darling Park's reception is the Flat Earth Convention. Judd seems restless, flicking glances at the entrance as if willing more people to show up. Soares isn't bothered in the slightest. He's comfortable holding court. Yeah, exactly. Cracking jokes and sharing stories. Judd is friendly but intense. He leans forward on his elbows. He talks conspiracies and devil worshippers. Why are they lying?
Demons.
Why are they lying about the shape of the earth, he asks me. Are they trying to hide the fact that we are of divine origin? He says that we're all just water and energy connected to a supreme creator from a different dimension. The positives go there, he said, when we die. The negatives get flicked off the circuit board.
And this is why it needs to be legalized, folks.
What? Gotcha. Okay. Okay. I asked Judd about the location. Why Darling Park? The reason is simple. Darling Park has a beautiful maintained garden with a sculpture roughly 2 meters in circumference at its center. The Earth, as seen on the United Nations flag. A flat Earth. It's the reason Trigger and Judd were so set on the venue, but on weekends, Darling Park closes off access to the garden. This is of perennial frustration to Judd, who
what are they
suggests
trying to hide?
Exactly, conspiracy. He believes the powers that be were against this convention from the start. From day one, we've just been hitting obstacle after obstacle. We're doing something that's in the light, and the darkness, the dark negative forces, are going to do everything they can to stop that. I asked Judd about Trigger, the co-organizer, what happened. Trigger says Judd is charismatic. He has contacts. In many ways, he was driving the convention, but... I'm sorry, Tigger, not Trigger. But Tigger...
Wait a minute, the guy's name's Tigger?
Yes. Fell off the grid.
Okay, that explains it. This whole meeting is taking place in the 100-acre woods.
But Tigger fell off the grid, and the Flat Earth Convention never recovered. Tigger just lost the plot, says Judd. He tried to burn down a Masonic lodge and got arrested.
Ah, so the Masons are behind it.
According to Judd, Tigger literally tried to burn down a Masonic lodge. He doused the entrance in petrol and set it alight. He didn't do a very good job, Judd says. Petrol burns very quickly, he explained. You have to mix oil in it if you really want it to burn. After the lodge incident, Tigger went dark. I don't know what happened, Judd said. I just put it all down to the powers that be trying to work against us.
This is why I say 7-Eleven was an inside job, and that nacho cheese doesn't burn hot enough to melt steel beams. I'm just saying. He's over here laughing uncomfortably. Daniel's next to me like, why did I come up here? This is what I'm doing with my holiday weekend. I was under the assumption we were going to be talking about magic.
It says on Tuesday, the guy looked for this Masonic lodge that supposedly burned down. He couldn't find anything, and he finally found an article saying on Tuesday afternoon, 16th of January, read the Post, the Koroi Masonic Center was subjected to an arson attempt. Fortunately, our building only suffered minor damage due to the quick actions of our neighbors. The police confirmed it. A 40-year-old man from Kinkin was charged with 1 count of endangering property by fire in relation to a fire on January 16th. Yeah, so we don't have any idea why he carried out this act. It would be nice to know why.
Okay, this all stemmed from a flat Earth meeting that only had 3 people show up.
Yes.
Run by a guy named Tigger.
No. Tigger was the co-promoter.
Okay, Tigger was the co-promoter.
Tigger got arrested for trying to burn down a Masonic lodge, clearly because they're trying to hide the truth.
Is this like the Benny Hill music playing in the background when this convention's going on?
He has Tigger's side of the story.
Oh, okay.
According to Tigger, he and Judd became online friends in early 2017 after discovering a shared passion for Flat Earth theory. Together, they founded a Flat Earth group called the Tychonian Society. Soon after, Tigger and Judd began work on what they called the Flat Earth Gathering. Tigger did most of the work, organizing the venue and speaking to potential guests. Soon hereafter, the relationship became strained. After several disagreements regarding the Tychonian Society and how the group should be managed, Tigger decided to cut ties with Judd. He lost what the message should be about. One problem, Judd was essentially paying for the Flat Earth Gathering. Tigger referred to him as his financial backer. With no money, Tigger canceled the booking at Darling Park and called it a day. And that's when Tigger alleges Judd began sending multiple threatening messages, including death threats. In one email, he allegedly threatened to eat Tigger's children.
This is real, right?
Yes, this is real.
This is a real thing, right?
Yep. Tigger says Judd was trying to take control of his creations. First, he tried to seize ownership of the Tychonian Society. He says now he was in the process of trying to monopolize his latest creation, a cross-media concept called FlatTube, a Facebook group essentially that speaks directly to fellow Flat Earth believers. Tigger says he was deeply hurt that Lee's actions left him feeling physically sick.
Hold on. So what he's saying is that he stole his idea for having a Facebook group?
Yeah. Well, no. I think it's a whole. It's a whole site.
Really?
Okay. It says okay. Yeah, a Facebook group essentially. Okay. It was for this reason, Tigger says, that he got drunk and allegedly set fire to Kure Masonic Center in January 16th, 2018. Well, now it all makes sense. Jeez.
I'm really sorry you wasted your weekend to come here, sir.
Chatting with Tigger on the phone is a strange experience. Television has taught us that conspiracy theorists are unhinged. Bug-eyed people who veer wildly from topic to topic at 100 miles a minute. That's been this show. Tiger Carroll wasn't like that. Not exactly. Perhaps the most terrifying thing about chatting with Tigger, many of the claims he makes are true.
Because that's what Tiggers do.
He says, for example, that he worked in the movie industry for decades. Seems outlandish, the type of life an unbalanced person might invent, but Tigger has an IMDb page. He was a crew member on a huge number of high-profile movies.
Come on, computer, turn on.
Shot in Australia, like Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, Moulin Rouge, Mission Impossible 2. Yeah. So, yeah, there's more to this.
Does you have Tigger's last name?
No, it doesn't have Tigger's last name.
Oh, then what good is it? I want to pull up Tigger's IMDb.
Okay,
Technology
I've got
sucks.
the app. Hold on. Let's see if I've actually...
Motorcycle Mouth Tigger was born December 22nd, 1972. It couldn't be at Tenor Morgan? No.
It might be in the article. The article's really long, so I don't want to waste any more time reading it. But
Why? It's so good. This is so much better than what we're talking about. I want to hear about Tigger.
It was definitely a good article, and I want to thank...
I could talk about cockroach milk if you want.
Aaron sent that, so thank you, Aaron. Cockroach milk?
Yeah, cockroach milk.
Let's not talk about cockroach milk.
I think we should. Are you ready to trade in your almond or soy milk for some cockroach dairy? Experts say rare milk crystal produced by cockroaches contains human health benefits, and finding it as a catch of a lot of attention from the superfood enthusiast. You're looking up Tigger, right?
I am. Yes,
okay, cool.
This is important.
This is filling space here. You won't find the rare crystals inside your average house pest because they are only produced by a Pacific beetle cockroach. The cockroach milk boasts, yes.
Okay.
The cockroach, the vision I have in my head is a bunch of cockroaches being milked by little cockroach machines.
Well, sure, yeah.
Which takes me back to that movie. I have nipples, Greg. Could you milk me? I was hoping you'd spit pop out of your mouth as I said that, but no. The cockroach, yeah, I'm saying pop instead of soda. I'm in a different state. The cockroach milk boasts 4 times as much protein as cow's milk and is packed with essential amino acids. They may be enough of a reason for health nuts to make the dairy switch when dipping their cookies in milk. How many cockroaches do you need to get a glass of milk? I don't know.
And how do you milk them?
How do you milk cockroaches? Now we're going to have like all these cockroach dairy farms all lined up. The cockroaches aren't going to be able to move, and they're going to be bred specifically to milk. People can't.
So that movie Downsizing was really a leak of our technology that's really going to make small people so that they can go milk cockroaches.
That works. Did you find anything on Tigger?
Oh, yes. Tigger Carroll.
Go for it.
If he's Tigger Carroll, let's see. Yeah, he was a unit assistant on Star Wars Attack of the Clones, Moulin Rouge, Mission Impossible 2, Babe Pig in the City, Dark City, and Paradise Road. He was also a third assistant director on one episode of Farscape.
Oh, nice.
Bringing us back around to our
side.
And that's pretty much... There's a TV movie. That's pretty much it. So a lot of stuff around 2000. Yeah.
That's a good resume, really.
Mm-hmm. Not very current, but yes.
And then now he's, a flat earther.
And burning down a Masonic lodge,
yeah,
supposedly?
That's just kind of an odd... my co-host for Last Exit says, look up cockroach bread.
Oh, boy. Okay. Got to do it. The fans want it. The fans are going to get it. Cockroach bread. Again, I am sorry you wasted your weekend to come out here and hang out with us, Daniel.
So what is your latest book, Dan?
My latest, the one coming out, there's a few coming out, actually. That makes it very complicated.
Are you competing with Nick Redfern to get out the most books in one career?
Not really, no. But
right,
yeah,
but you are.
So, so I've got a book from the Bodleian Library that has been. This is another book of Magick, which is probably going to come out in the spring. Where it's gone off to Llewellyn, and they've got it in house right now. We're also working.
What
with
is it?
It's Bodleian Emuseo 173, which of course doesn't help at all.
No, not even
no,
slightly.
no. But because it's a book that nobody's heard of before, but it has a lot of interesting
Where do you
little
find
things.
this? You find the coolest, weird, magical books out of nowhere.
I go looking for them. There's little hints here and there in various scholarly works, and so you just kind of track them down, and then you look at it, and you're like, okay, well, this one's not so great, but oh yeah, there's a bunch of other stuff in here they didn't even bring up. We should definitely publish this one. So that's what happened with that one.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm also working with a small press to publish the a book that was in the New York Public Library. It's 19th century. It's by a guy named William Dawson Bellhouse, who combined his practice as an astrologer and a cunning man using magic and gazing into crystals with galvanism, which is the gentle art of using devices to electrocute people for therapeutic benefits.
So fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and we're probably going to toss in a couple other little booklets with that one. It's going to be like one of these deluxe editions. So we're going to toss in a book on witch bottles and a book on wax images.
Resurrectionists, or have you ever heard about resurrectionists?
He's not a resurrectionist himself, but that was part of the what people were doing with electricity at the time. It's like, hey, we can use this to make people jump.
That's
we'll
what
make your corpse
resurrectionists
jump.
were, because I've heard the term resurrectionist dropped, and I've never.
No, that was
understood what
more
it was.
toward people digging up bodies to be able to supply medical schools with anatomy, because with anatomical specimens, just because there was no real mechanism to do that at the time.
Yeah.
So eventually people decided that maybe they need to have some better ways of handling, being able to give people hands-on experience with, dissecting bodies without,
So were these grave
rewarding
robbers,
theft.
or
Usually grave robbers. There's some people who got a little bit overly ambitious
and would kill people and say, "Here's a body." we
Yeah,
found."
occasionally that would
give us our
happen,
money.
and that's why it became so unpopular. Well, aside from the grave robbing, of course.
What is the weirdest thing you've come across looking through these books of magic?
The weirdest thing?
Yeah. I know it's not an easy question because
There's a
probably lots
lot
of
of weird things.
Or just pick one thing, then. It doesn't have to be the weirdest.
It would probably be the 19th century Italian manuscript I was talking about earlier, the one with the weird little illustrations of. It's got an illustration of a devil playing the violin. It's got that frog thing that's spitting fire and climbing up a ladder while some little demon head with wings looks on, and there's what I think is an illustration of the Tree of Life with a skeleton underneath it, and and there's one where there's happy demons hanging out guarding the door of serpents because I guess that's what they do.
Well, yeah.
And it's bizarre, it's amazing, and probably no one will ever see it.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
There's no way to get reproductions of it?
You can get reproductions of it, but they're all black and white because it's microfilm.
Yeah.
So, and this was actually drawn in color.
In color, really?
So, yeah. So
you'd have to get the reproduction, and then someone would have to colorize it, is basically what you're saying.
And that they would have to know exactly, what colors were in the original, but there's no way to access it right now.
Have you ever come across like other culture books of magic, like Asian magic, things like that, or do you just primarily center on English magic? Or
the answer is yes to both. I come across it from time to time, and I've seen them in museums, like an Ethiopian book of magic. Oh, I'm going to take pictures of that, but at the same time, I know that that's a whole other skill set in order to be able to go in and look at that.
Really, is it the language barrier, or is it just a completely different mindset of how the spells work and all that stuff?
The spells actually often have a similar mindset behind them. I mean, you're going it for particular purposes. Mm-hmm. You're doing things that are sort of there's kind of this whole idea of association between an object, say, and the person you want to affect. Maybe you're using part of their hair. Maybe you're making a little. Yeah, you're making what's called a voodoo doll, but was actually, I should note, was used in Europe for millennia beforehand. So we just kind of push it off on voodoo. Because,
really, it was in Europe for a while.
Oh yeah, it's been.
Is that where the tradition came from, or was it exported over? Or
it's hard to tell where anything came from, just because of so much of this is not documented anywhere in terms of what people were doing.
So
on
it wasn't
the ground.
brought over with colonialism into Africa or something like that, or is this a shared thing?
I can tell you it was definitely going on in Europe for a century, back to the Greek and Roman times. So they were using those little images. So that sort of principle, though, of association is pretty universal.
Well, how far back have you gone in your research?
Well, I wrote this book on the Necronomicon, right? So Sumer is as far back as I go. Sumer, Babylon, all that.
There's not much written before that.
No, but and it's fascinating stuff. I can't get too far into that because I would have to learn another language, and that's a commitment right there. But it goes back very far, and you start seeing the same sort of basic procedures come up again, time and time again.
Is that a cultural thing, or is it, like this part? Are there things like in African magic, for lack of a better term, that you see in European magic? Are there sharing things, or?
Well, I think that the images, the whole idea of an image, and the Nikisi, what they call down there, which is it's sort of an image to bring justice, and it's like the wooden statues with all the nails stuck into them. And I'm probably, if somebody's a specialist in that, they're probably slapping their forehead right now at what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, whatever.
But cool the idea of having an image that has an effect and can affect the outside world and do cause change is something that is extends across
I've always wondered about
a number of continents,
because you see, like, probably a poor example, but you see pyramids built all over the world from civilizations that should not have communication with each other, and you see these similar things around the world. So I'm wondering if it's the same thing with like magical practice, like these people that shouldn't have been able to communicate with others, that you see patterns in magical practices from around the world that are similar that you shouldn't see because of the communication barriers and things like that. Does that question make sense to you?
It does make sense to me. I think I would not go in that direction, though. I think there are certain things that cognitively we tend to, we look at the world in a particular way because we're human, and therefore the idea that, okay, if I make something that looks like you and I do something horrible to it, something horrible will happen to you. That's it. Or, vice versa, make something good happen, is something that's, I think people can kind of put together on their own. And so, if you start seeing
it seems like
specific,
a basic idea.
Yeah. Now, if you start seeing specific, that's where it would start to get interesting.
Now, another thing that I've often wondered about, being as that we only have 10 minutes left in the show, so here's a simple question for you, which means it won't be.
A little under, but go on.
At what point do you see sorcery going from things that sorcerers practice to becoming less sorcery, more witchcraft, and people are being persecuted against that? Is there a point in history where things start to change and go south?
You mean in Europe?
Yeah, well, that's probably the easiest one to go to, yeah.
Yeah, it's probably about, I'd say, the 15th and 16th centuries is where it starts you start seeing that transition. And I have questions about that transition because people say, well, okay, people were doing this learned magic, which was largely done by priests and clerics who were, circulating these manuscripts, as we talked about. And then people started getting worked up about that. And so that kind of made its transition into this whole idea of, along with the ideas that people were meeting to, perform heretical rites and that sort of thing. That was what, led into the witch. But of course, the funny thing about that is that nobody got really all that worked up about, ritual magic. Even during that time, even during the witch hunts, people were saying, well, yeah, you're doing ritual magic. Don't do that. We're going to burn your books. And you'll have to walk around town with a funny hat on or something. But it wasn't
it was more anti-woman than it was anti-magic, wasn't it?
In a lot of cases, yeah. So, I mean, and a lot of these people are, of course, they're clergymen. So the
So I always thought it was
clergymen
we can't have people practicing magic because then they won't have a need for the church anymore, because if they can do stuff through magic, they don't have a need for God, and we can't have that. So am I wrong in that perception, or is that just something that's been fed through the ages?
Well, a lot of the tricky part is a lot of this, what the magic actually pulls in rites of the church or, sacred objects or sacred prayers and in order to power itself. So it's not like I think people were concerned about people going outside the church, yes, but without the church, there would be a whole other structure to that. It's really deriving a lot from that particular, from the rites of the church. Yeah.
Well, that was a lot easier than I expected it to be explained.
And as for cockroach bread, Andressa Lucas and Lauren
What a transition.
Menegon, 2 engineering students at the Federal University of Rio Grande, Brazil, have developed a flour made from cockroaches that contains 40% more protein than regular wheat flour and can be used to make all kinds of baked goods. It also contains a lot of essential amino acids as well as... It says, as well as amino acids and liptids. Before you start acting all disgusted, the flour is not made from bugs like those crawling through your kitchen at night, but from a species called Naufeta cinerea. They are sourced from a specialized breeder, where they are produced according to hygiene requirements of Anvisa, the Brazilian Health Surveillance Agency, and fed exclusively on fruits and vegetables.
I would eat cockroach bread. I would try it. I've eaten chocolate-covered crickets before.
Did you say Aiton?
Eaten.
Okay.
Eaten. Otten.
Otten?
I've consumed...
Oh, you've ottened it.
I've consumed chocolate-covered crickets and candied scorpions in Toronto.
Really?
Yeah. And I found the chocolate-covered grasshoppers or crickets. I can't remember which one it was. I found them to be spicy when I ate them. They weren't not bad. They tasted good. They tasted all right. They weren't bad. I'd eat them again. So...
Okay. All right. Was that the only 2 books you have coming up? Do we talk about
think
everything?
Immediately, yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And then in the future?
I have so many books out there that are in one state or another.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Now, a lot of these you've recollected and republished from ancient manuscripts. Is there anything you've written like you did with the Necronomicon files?
Oh, is there anything I think the upcoming, when I talked about that deluxe edition, the books on wax images and witch bottles are written by me. So, and they're kind of this interesting combination, which I think I may have developed myself. You know how you have books that are sort of entertaining, and then you have source books?
Yeah.
They're like really, trying to give you details about primary text. I think I mashed the 2 up.
Nice.
And so now it's they should be books that are fun to read, but are also just really in depth. I think it's going to be fun because you know what a witch bottle is?
No.
Witch
I've heard
bottle.
the term, but
it's a primarily British sort of folk magic, which involves taking urine and pins and a bottle and other things at one time or another, corking it and using that in burying it or putting in a fire to basically reverse a spell.
That sounds like Clive Barker.
It sort of does, yeah. And sometimes it gets really elaborate. And no one has ever really written a book about it. There's a lot of literature about it, but no one's written a book. This is maybe the first book, and I'm reluctant to say that because, of course, someone will put something out a month beforehand.
Oh, yeah.
So you haven't got this out yet. It's coming out?
It's coming out, yeah.
Yeah, I'll be bugging you again.
Okay.
We'll be talking soon.
Yes.
All right. Well, where can people find you, Daniel?
You can find me at danharms.wordpress.com.
Okay.
And you can probably find me in other places, but, don't write me a work, please.
And your books are all available on Amazon?
A lot of them are available on Amazon. Some of the small press ones are not.
Okay.
But if you go to my blog, I'll let you know when they start appearing.
Oh, okay. So is everything you have published now available on Amazon?
I believe so, except for one small press book, which is out of print.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And now you do a podcast, Roejen?
I may be involved in some form of internet radio show.
What
you have been on? Actually, both of you have been on it a few times.
What would that be again?
That would be Project Archivist. I know I'm pronouncing it wrong. It's actually Archivist, but we say it wrong. And you can find us at www.projectarchivist.com. Any place you find podcasts, you can find us, except for Google. We're having a weird situation where we can't, for some reason, get our show on Google. It's either the Illuminati or the Flat Earth. There's somebody that's preventing us from putting our show on there. Google themselves doesn't. Well, I don't know. We don't know why your show's not working on our thing.
Dark negative forces.
Demons.
Yes.
Demons are what's causing it. So you can find us there, and you can find us on Facebook. You can find me on Facebook. Just go out and check us out.
Maybe we should put out a book that says everything is demons and the Earth is flat. We'd make $1 million.
We need to have Tigger involved with it.
Yes, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm fine with it. And we could have our meeting where we would eat cockroach bread and drink cockroach milk. And
And that sums up
if we
tonight's
have to use the
conversation.
bathroom, we would have witch bottles to use the bathroom with. So, and at this point, Dan says, I'm never coming up here again.
I know what I'm getting into.
By now, with me, you should.
Yeah, by now, it's just, if I didn't know better, then there would be something wrong with me.
So, obviously, we're going to keep Roejen for the last eggs of Fool Lost. Dan, you are welcome to stay for a while, too, if you wish.
I might.
All right. I know you stayed last time. We did all kinds of Lovecraft stuff. So, all right. So this is, we're going to hear Radii to take us out. Left Hand Path. You can find them on Facebook. It's RADII.
What an appropriately named song for this episode.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. And first, however, this is a little thanks to our Patreons. And I'll see you next time. Patreons who are pledging at the $10, and a special thanks to our Patreons who are pledging at the $10 or above level. John Eddy, Chris Elmquist, Christopher Vaughn, Patricia Giaquinta, Allison Cook, Robert Groom, Christopher Sheehan, Mark Brady, Roland Belstedt, Kevin Shrek, Super Inframan, Alfred Tuttle, Carla Mahoney, and Gabriel Zero. Thank you very much.
The dark ones say there is no way to escape this holy wrath. The road to the end is painful, my friend, your salvation and your soul's blood bath. I ride all night for the love and the light, and I'm looking for the left-hand path. 40 days and 40 nights is a penance for a sociopath. It's written in stone, or sins to atone, sick of dealing with the aftermath. I ride all night for the love and the light, and I'm looking for the left-hand path. I aim to the left, pull to the right, always looking for the left-hand path. The way it is now is the way it's always been. The hatred from without and the fire from within. The devil in your head is an angel in your bed, and the Lord of fucking light. And the wind feels too cold to go outside. Better tonight, can I stay here inside with you tonight? Sleepless night. The dark ones say there is no way to escape this holy wrath. They raise your ambition, you pay the mortician a funeral and an epitaph. I ride all night for the love and the light, and I'm looking for the left-hand path. I aim to the left, pull to the right, always looking for the left-hand path. The way it is now is the way it's always been. The hatred from without and the fire from within. The devil in your head is an angel in your bed, and the Lord of fucking light.
You have been listening to Where Did the Road Go? This show is made possible in part from our Patreons, and we thank you and everyone listening for helping us continue this exploration of the strange. You can always find everything Where Did the Road Go related at www.wheredidtheroadgo.com. And thank you so much for your support.